There is one location in Ocarina of Time that goes fairly unnoticed. It's mostly overshadowed by everything that surrounds it. However, I truly believe that it's the most important location within the game. Today, we are talking about everything to do with the Windmill Hut, including a theory and a bit of speculation. Everything to do with the Windmill Hut has something to do with the concept of going around and around. The blades outside go around and round, even the circular wooden platform inside. When wearing headphones, as a theme that plays in the background progresses, it switches between getting louder in one ear and quieter in the other, constantly, giving the illusion that the music is going around you. Interestingly, the Song of Storms itself is a paradox. Link learns the Song of Storms as an adult from the Phonogram Man. After learning the song, Link travels back in time, back to when he was a child. He ends up teaching the Phonogram Man the Song of Storms, who of course ends up teaching Link it in the future. The Phonogram Man can only learn the song from Link, who can only learn it from the Phonogram Man. So, with this paradox, we see that yet again the theme of going around and around is seen. However, I believe it could go even deeper than what has been covered. Let's start with trying to find out what exactly is the Windmill Hut used for. In real life, the overall goal of a windmill is to transfer energy from the wind into performing a certain job. Such jobs include pumping water, grinding grain, and in recent years we use them to produce electricity with wind turbines. So what exactly is the Windmill Hut used for here? Well, it appears that it actually acts as a door. A door to where, you may ask? A door to the bottom of the well. A dark, gloomy, miserable place. The bottom of the well is likely an extension of the horrific Shadow Temple, built by the Sheikah during the Civil War to capture and torture prisoners. In a previous theory of mine, I theorised that they experimented with the prisoners, killing them and harnessing their souls, placing their life energy into clay models, not too different to the Haniwa, transforming them into the Re-Dead. Other creatures such as Dead Hand can also be found down here. I theorised that Dead Hand was similar to the Re-Dead, but had a key difference. They were the actual resurrected corpses of the dead, not clay models. Just like the Re-Dead, they were experiments gone wrong. But how exactly does the windmill act as a door to the bottom of the well? Well, after Link learns the Song of Storms from the Phonogram Man in the future, he travels back in time to teach him the song. By teaching him the song, the windmill begins to spin really fast, the platform inside too. Outside, the well begins to drain, allowing Link to finally enter the dungeon. It's clear that if the windmill rotates quickly enough, the entrance to the bottom of the well is revealed. In fact, in the 3DS remake, we even see a poster that shows exactly how the windmill works. It's clear that the engineering of the windmill goes deeper underground. What's shown here is likely how exactly the well drains. However, this does bring up the question, would the Sheikah have to wait for a storm to come in order to access the well? Well, not exactly. The origin of the Song of Storms is unknown. Although it's trapped within a paradox, there has to be a place where it originated from before presumably Link created the paradox. It could be possible that the Song of Storms was created by the Sheikah themselves as a key to entering the area beneath the well. By playing the Song of Storms, the windmill will spin really fast, so it's likely that it was made for that purpose. So we have now figured out what exactly the windmill would have been used for. It's a mechanical contraption that is used to open up the entrance to the well so that the Sheikah may enter. This implies that the Sheikah may have also constructed the windmill themselves. So what else could possibly be solved in the mystery of the Windmill Hut? Well, what if I told you that the windmill, and most of Kakariko village as a whole, could possibly be a reference to Frankenstein? Okay, this may sound crazy, but hear me out. We'll start with the fairly obvious comparisons between the two, and then go from there. The windmill is located above parts of the bottom of the well, a place swarmed with undead creatures. If we assume my previous theory is correct, all undead were man-made. What does that remind you of? Frankenstein's monster. Next, the windmill is heavily connected to the graveyard. Ignoring Danpe's and the royal family's tombs, which are important to the story, there are two optional graves you can enter, none of which have a coffin with a human corpse or a human skeleton. There is a re-dead in one, but as previously mentioned, they are not corpses, they are clay models filled with the souls of the dead. The other grave has a fairy fountain. However, the people buried in the graveyard are those with heavy ties to the royal family. The individual that should have been buried here may have had some strong ties to the race of fairies, which is why they were buried next to a fairy fountain. Both grave sites feature skeletons, but none are human. So where exactly are the bodies? Well, if we're going to continue the Frankenstein comparison, disturbingly, they may have been taken. In Frankenstein, the monster was created from the body parts of deceased individuals. I'll be returning to this point in the future. By the way, keep the idea of there being two empty graves. Furthermore, towards the end of the 1931 movie version of Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster is caught in a fire at a windmill located at the top of a hill. Now this may be a bit of a stretch, but what if, considering all the other connections to the story, the windmill in Ocarina of Time is also a reference? Of course it doesn't burn down, but it's still a thing that connects both Frankenstein and Kakariko village. Finally, this last point is going to seem like a humongous stretch, but what if the Song of Storms is also a reference? The Song of Storms is taught inside the windmill and it summons a thunderstorm. Frankenstein was brought to life during a thunderstorm when lightning struck the lab. Due to all of this, it could be a possibility that the windmill and several areas in Kakariko are at least loosely inspired by Frankenstein. Now here's where we begin the theory. Some of this is speculation, but it could be likely. If we consider all the Frankenstein references so far as true, it begs the question as to what this all means. Well, it could possibly answer the question to the identity of one Zelda enemy, Dead Hand. I believe that the Frankenstein references may extend as far as the Dead Hand. In fact, I believe that Dead Hand could possibly be the Zelda equivalent to Frankenstein's monster. Right, let's run through the similarities between the two. Dead Hand and Frankenstein's monster are both fleshy undead creatures. Although Frankenstein's monster is more humanoid, Dead Hand still shares some features of that of a person. For example, his head, his neck, his arms, and the fact that it's bipedal. In a previous theory of mine, I theorised that Dead Hand was a failed experiment where a corpse of a human body was brought back to life. What else is a failed experiment of a resurrected human corpse? Frankenstein's monster. But why would I say Dead Hand specifically? Wouldn't something such as Bongo Bongo or even the Re-Dead make as much sense to be the Zelda version of Frankenstein than Dead Hand? Well, what did I tell you earlier to remember? The fact that there were two graves with missing bodies. How many Dead Hands are there in the main game of Ocarina of Time? In fact, how many are there in the entire series? 2. There are 2 Dead Hands. Both Dead Hands are undead creatures, possibly reanimated corpses of people, and there were 2 empty graves. As previously mentioned, the 2 empty graves could have been a reference to Frankenstein and his monster, a reference to the fact that Frankenstein's monster was made out of body parts. I believe that the 2 Dead Hands are the Zelda equivalent to Frankenstein's monster. People dug out from graves, probably by the Sheikah, and resurrected from the dead. Both Dead Hands were failed experiments and went out of control, resulting in them being locked away beneath the well and in the Shadow Temple for eternity. Perhaps the windmill was the location where they were brought to life. It is connected to the graveyard after all. Maybe, in order to bring them to life, alongside the green substance, the Sheikah used the Song of Storms to summon the lightning that, similarly to Frankenstein's monster, brought the 2 creatures to life. However, that's just speculation. We'll likely never know the truth about Dead Hand. All we can do now is wonder. Everything to do with the windmill has something to do with the theme of going around and around. The blades, the gears, the paradox, and its relation to the Sheikah's obsession with ending the cycle of life and death. All of this contribute to the mystery of the windmill.